I've never pulled punches about my opinions about people. The trouble is I don't always say them in public, and I should. Perhaps I should. But anyway.
Okay, we're ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to say with all this is just I haven't experienced during the time I've been in the organization, since I've only been in it since 1995, the level of devastation that AIDS took out on this organization in the 1980s and the early 90s, but just, I guess, just in the few members that I have known who have passed away since I've been involved in the organization, I just feel how disturbing it is to no longer have them with us. So I guess I experienced what you, Doug, and Gavin had experienced on a much larger level, on a much smaller scale, but I guess I still see what it's like to no longer have them place with us, and just to not see, the charisma of somebody like Rodney Fry with us anymore. It's just it's sad. It's really sad.
Well, let me ask you both. What do you think is this organization's greatest accomplishment?
What do you think?
And there can be more than one.
I do think the National Task Force on AIDS Prevention, that's what I worked for many years, will go down. It changed their policy. And I like to believe that there are people, the one member I'll always take, I was at a BWP chapter which Renee name was, in South Africa, I think it was, and I was doing a little hot, horny, and healthy workshop, and this guy walked up to me afterwards, and he said, thank you. He said, I have never put a condom on anything before, or made my partners put a condom on. And it was all in terms of no one had shown him how. And although he was co-chair of his local chapter, that just struck me. And that was in 92, 93 years old, 1993. And so I have not seen the guy much since then. But I think there are people all across the country who are not infected. I think of the work the task force did. I think there are people who are living with HIV, who are living longer with HIV in large part because of the initial groundwork the task force has conducted. So I think in terms of extending life and preventing some loss of life, I think the task force will go down as an ABWT salient contribution. I think the discrimination response system that happened in local chapters. Some people still remember going to the Midnight Sun in the early 80s in San Francisco and West Hollywood, and people still heard those stories of that activism, and it helped change policies in Los Angeles. The local chapter was quite active in West Hollywood, changing the law that only any establishment that served alcohol in the city of West Hollywood can only request one piece of ID. That would not have happened if it weren't for the Los Angeles chapter. And so in terms of changing policy and changing lives, also, I would say that the Black Gay and Lesbian Leadership Forum, which was an outgrowth of Black and White Men Together Los Angeles, put on a wonderful AIDS Institute. It never found its niche in terms of having chapters and defining how to really create a national presence. But for 10 to 15 years, Black gay men and lesbians from not only across the United States, but from Canada, from England, knew that President's Day weekend in February, that they were going to be at that conference. And you had people like Cornel West and Alice Walker and June Jordan who were present. And when you think that came out of discussion groups in Black and White Men Together Los Angeles, that is something that the organization can claim a lot of credit for.
And indeed, the LA chapter was one of the first co-sponsors of the co-sponsors of the first conference of the national, in 1988, 88, I believe.
I want to say 87, but it was 88, yeah. 87 or 88, yeah. It was 87, I don't know. Was it 92? Yeah, it was 87 because 92 was the 5th. Yeah, I can find out. But, so yeah, I think those are the three biggest accomplishments.
I can think of several as well. Just overlapping what you had said, just about the Bar Discrimination Project, the task force. But I guess I also think about just the simple fact that this is the only organization that brings men of different colors together to talk about race, discrimination, homophobia, sexism, AIDS, just all of that. I just wish that there were more people interested and involved in this organization, and just, I in a way, I mean, I think it may sound kind of crazy, but it's almost like, it's a shame that not everybody can be a part of this organization. Just how different just living would be. Just, I guess people were more sensitive to racial issues. Just some of the different things that we talk about in this organization. I also think just another one of its greatest accomplishments is its individual accomplishments for each and every member, how it shaped every one of our lives. I mean, as I had mentioned before, my life could have turned out totally different if it wasn't for this organization, but I've grown as a person on so many different levels. And, as Gavin was saying earlier, I may have learned some of this stuff elsewhere, but just this organization definitely had a very viable part in making me who I am, shaping my life.
Well, I think also you look at some of the people who have been around there for a long time, that it has, some people brought their leadership skills to the organization. I think for a lot of people who also really developed leadership skills within the organization, how to go to a meeting, just like protocol to go into a meeting. I know there's one person who is, I'm sure is out, just in case he's not, but he works directly, he reports to Tommy Thompson, and he is in charge of minority health initiatives under Tommy Thompson. He worked before that under the Clinton administration. Powerful, influential person who may not have gotten their start here, but I'm sure that NABMT has influenced his life. We've had people who've worked with Jocelyn Elders directly who have come through our doors. So in terms of, we have like Charles Stewart who have worked with people who were in the California legislature and city council, who their right-hand person, their chief of staff. And so was all of that given to them before they came to the organization? Some of them developed leadership after they left the organization, but I do believe the organization has planted many seeds. That the truth is that one of those stories of NABMT will be that it's very hard to document our whole history and impact that we've had. But a lot of people have come through our doors. And have gone on to make valuable contributions. And that's why I say it would be difficult, because you came in here and all of a sudden you left the organization, and now, look at Phil Wilson. He came to us, he learned, it was an entree for him. He is the black gay activist in the nation, if not, and one of them in the world. He got a lot of stuff out of BWT Los Angeles. There are a few people who are called black gay activists. Forget HIV, he would be on anyone's top 3, 4. And look at Keith Boykin. So you have Phil Wilson, then you might have Keith Boykin, who was a protege of Phil Wilson. So how do you quantify that? I'm not sure, but I think we have a lot to be proud of. Looking at someone like Preston who's going for his PhD. coming here saying, this is who I am. I even look at people who, I remember in some caucuses where there were black men who were very adamant they would never date black men. And what I take from that is, and sometimes in some cases being very clear about the reasons why, and the organization provided a space, a relatively safe space, for them to say things, and they would step a half a foot out the door, they would be condemned for saying those things. So it provided a place for, as the foster a supportive environment where people can be very honest. And there are very few places in the world that allow you to be very honest, and especially those places that people really do not want to tap into because it feels ugly. Mm-hmm. A place where even if you look at the whole nature of black and white men together, for white men and black men being that whole taboo-ness of interracial dealings, and I guess for some people it's still taboo, but the fact that you can actually only, in many places it allows the opportunity for a dialogue about that, as opposed to just acting on it. Many places actually you can hop on the internet and act on it. You can go to work and act on that impulse or whatever. But to explore people with like minds is a wonderful gift. And you're black or you're white or whatever, being different is a good thing.
Well, perhaps you've partly answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you like best about this organization? And what do you like least?
Well, what I like best is the people. I mean, just, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but just, it's my family. I mean, I've made some of my best friends through this organization, and I guess just the way it can take people in and really feel like they belong. And I remember I felt that instantly once I joined the Philadelphia chapter. And just at the conventions every year, just the way people, after having not seen you for a year, just are so warm and so friendly and so inviting. I think that's one of the best things. I think one of the things that I like least is, well, I guess a couple things. Just I feel like at times the organization can get caught up in bureaucracy and just really not moving forward. And I guess right now I feel like the organization doesn't have a clear-cut direction with the exception of the Multiracial, Multicultural Institute. And I guess partially because of what I was talking about before, racism isn't as obvious as it was in the gay community 20 years ago as it is now. So maybe that has a large part to do with it. But I guess the organization needs to figure out where it wants to go from here, and it also has to figure out how to attract younger members.
And do you, as a younger member, have any suggestions in that regard? Because that is clearly one of the most intractable problems that we all face, especially those of us on the board.
I feel more than anything, the group's got to get out there and market itself. Just what are we doing to attract new members? I don't feel like we're doing enough. I just feel that the group has to make a case, well, for one thing, to young people that, okay, this is an organization that you should want to join, and it's got to appeal on different levels. It's a social organization where you can meet people, but you're also going to learn stuff here. And this is also going to be a supportive environment. And I know we talk about those things all the time. We talk about them at the conventions, at the chapter meetings, but it's preaching to the converted. And I feel like we put ads in newspapers, these small ads, but we've been saying the same things we've been saying before. I don't have a real strong, I guess I don't know the exact answer of what we need to do to attract younger members, but I guess we have to do a better job of appealing to them. I don't think we are.
Do you think it's a question of needing to devise new programs, new substantive offerings, or just a question of figuring out a way to market what we already have? Or both?
I think it's definitely both. I mean, the marketing, what we have is one thing, but what we do at the conventions every year is just fabulous, the workshops and everything. But along those same lines, we have these workshops where we're talking about stuff within our organization, but we don't bring a lot of new people in to hear that stuff. And I think the reason why we don't bring new people in is because we don't have a clear-cut vision of where we want to take the stuff that we talk about in these workshops. It's like we have all these great little ideas here and there, but we haven't figured out a way to pull them together into, okay, we want to go here. We want to do this to, I guess, eliminate racism and accomplish our various other goals. I shouldn't say eliminate racism because we'll probably never be able to do that. As Preston said in a workshop this morning, it's going to be an issue this century, next century, the century after that, but we can definitely make an impact in the world.
You, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts about what additional programs, additional to the Multiracial, Multicultural Institute, which we already do, that we as an organization could undertake to combat racism?
Well, I think just getting our voice out there is the number one thing we've got to do. And it kind of overlaps with the whole marketing thing. I think, as Gavin had mentioned earlier, we had sent out press releases opposing the war. Just doing that. But whenever a racial incident happens in the United States, we should be the first to respond, if not one of the first. Because, whenever something comes up like the black man who was dragged to death in Texas a few years back, we should have been all over that. Do you remember if we sent out, did we send out stuff about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think we did.
Okay. I mean, I guess we should be getting our name out there. We should be taking a leadership role in anything like that in the news media comes up. I guess there should be a person designated to respond to that. I think that's one thing.
Would you like to volunteer?
No.
I'm sorry, that's an inappropriate question on the interview.
Okay, thank you.
I think to a certain degree, from the address the youth issue, I think that to a certain degree this is hard, but the face of NABNT has to change. I was in a board meeting in San Francisco, and someone said, we should have a hip-hop party so we can attract youth here. And aside from what I think that might be an interesting thing. The person is 9 or 10 years older than I am saying that. And I was thinking, have we actually spoken to some youth who said that would actually attract them? So we just, a lot of times we make assumptions. But then it also hit me that if we were able to get 4 or 5 folks to come there, because there is that social element of people who want to come to the organization, that if myself and my culture and the current board were the people that people see, unless we are all on our JOBs and we engage in some limited, discussion that is relevant to their lives, they're going to see these 5 or 6 tired old folks, and they're going to say, well, that's cute, and that might be relevant, but so I think one way of addressing is they need to identify a couple of people and let them go and take their ball on the road. I've actually spoken to someone in San Francisco who definitely, I met at a party a couple of years ago, and it was amazing to see how many young people, relatively young, 40 and under, who were all interracially attracted and dating at this party. It was amazing. I saw a lot of the leadership of San Francisco politics and organizations, all looking very, very cute. And I thought, damn, that's before I became co-chair. I thought, if we had this membership, we even had like a tenth of people at this party. In part because they were cute. And I hate to say it, when I first came involved with the organization, one of the things that kept me, we're talking about racial engaged community, But quite early on, there were people who were my own age, a lot of people. Colin Gibson was the coach of the chapter a few months after I got in, and he was a young thing at 22 or 23 years old. And he was the local co-chair. There were people, Neil Baker, who you and I went up to, who I'm still my dearest friends to this day, was involved with the chapter, and there was this whole youth element. I remember it seemed like for a while UCLA was very much involved with WMT. I can think of like 4 or 5 folks who all going to UCLA, and every rap or so you always see some folks from UCLA. And I think that there was that element of attraction. So identifying some people working with someone like a Paul or somebody, and identifying other folks. The key thing is how do you identify those other folks? And then, last thing, was take the model that happened in New York, which I thought was great, YMACT. If we had this group, even we said YMACT or Weimar, 35 and under or whatever, and identify somebody, try to identify a person or two in a chapter or in an area, and say, you have carte blanche to do anything you want, and support the resources. See how that works. And the last thing I'll say, I know you have this larger question you wanted to ask, was to also put some resources behind it. We're going to have this YNAWMT or something like that the NA would commit to sponsoring 10 people to go to Atlanta. Because if you don't know anything about the organization, and since we really do not have, we have very few vibrant chapters, but we can really identify 10 people across the country, and we'll sponsor them. So you have two people to a room, put them on JetBlue Airlines for $200 round trip to Atlanta, and then demand of them commitment to do some work. So that during a report, one of the things, all these little scholarship funds we have, I was thinking that we give all these scholarships, we don't really ask people to do anything to come to a convention. So you go to a convention, that's a good thing. Not saying don't do any of the scholarship funds, but it's cute. But then demand that they provide a report, or that they do something, provide something at an institute at NABMT. We had a youth institute. We identified 10 people. We had a youth institute, so they came in, attend a board meeting. They could attend a board meeting. Blah blah blah. They put together their own youth institute that other folks can, who are older than 35 or whatever, could attend or look at. But they did something that was relevant to their lives, and the NA was completely supportive of it. We have, I'm not sure how much money is in the Michael Smith Trust Fund, but I would hope and think along the lines of that might be something that can be measured, a specific project that can be measured. That could be worth $10,000 or $15,000. Whatever, I'm not doing budgets, but that would be something that would be quite interesting. And that has worked before in other areas. I've seen that happen, that model before, where you said,
Well, that raises a question in my mind, and I know this really isn't supposed to be a dialogue in this sense, but as a board member, it's kind of a catch-22 from our point of view. I think it's not, at least the way I see it, it's not just a question of identifying the young people. It's finding people who are willing and able to take the time and invest the effort necessary. A lot of younger people have things happening in their lives. They're very busy, and it's very hard to find people that can take the time. Even in our institute, some of our facilitators are now kind of distracted by other things, and I guess that's the real challenge in addition to identifying and figuring out what type of program you need.
And that's always going to be the challenge. I would say, so we identify 10 people and 7 people work out. That's always going to be, and I would also say, that I think my best times in NABMT, I was 22 years old. And I was 22, and did all the board meetings, did all my reporting. After I got that little addition from Tim.
You were unique, however, I think.
Colin Gibson was served as treasurer, and he was under 30 years of age, and so was unique. And I'm sure there was somebody else. I'm not sure if David Howell, when he first was on the board, was over 30, and he did things. So if we even said 35 and under, but if we made that a commitment, and you work with folks, I agree with you that there will be no one who you come in and you're going to have 100% success. But if we say that, and if we did it a couple of times, I mean, I think there has to be a long-term commitment. Something that was said yesterday, and I can't think of who said it, but someone at the candidates forum was talking about, well, I wish we had a workshop to get new members. And I thought that's really quite cute, but that's the problem. The problem is that we want a quick fix. And so you tell me, I used to, and I still do to a certain degree, anti-oppression workshops within with organizations. And I cannot tell you how many times when I was doing it professionally, full time, how many organizations like uni bus drivers of San Francisco would call our organization and they say, we have this issue and they want a 2-hour workshop so you can fix the issue. Well, you can't fix racism in 2 hours. You can't fix, or even in a day. And so if the board were to dedicate, that is a process. This last year, at the last convention, the board, the NA went through yet another restructuring process. They didn't say, let's have a quick fix. I know people were calling, I know John Sears was calling up.
John Spear.
John Spear, I'm sorry, I knew it was something wrong there. But John Spear, when I was in Philadelphia, took me aside and we're thinking about this, we're thinking about that. Blah, 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 blah. It wasn't let's come with an idea, see if it works, and if it doesn't work, throw it away. There has to be just a commitment to the process. Identify folks may, but I would think that in my heyday, I would just use calling myself as examples, that we contributed greatly to the organization. If we were the exceptions, that should not diminish the work that was done. When I first started going to the task force, I was 20, when I was a volunteer for the task force, I was like 26 or 27 years old. And I think I do a good safe and sex workshop as good as anybody else does. So yeah, there are exceptions, but you cultivate those exceptions and you tap into that energy. And let's say, God forbid, a year from now or 2 years from now, we have plunked down $30,000 into failure. Well, at least we know that we tried something. We did not sit on our hands for another year and go, God, we want to get more youth. I was hearing that when I was, John Bush was saying that. I think one reason why it was so good that I was a youth, and I remember in Atlanta or in LA, you need to get more youth here. Okay, well, 15 years later, this youth has gotten older, and we have Regis who's 30, we have Dell who's in her 30, we have Paul who's in his 20s. I think that may be the extent of the under 40 folks who are at this convention. Mm-hmm. So, talking about how we need to get more youth here is good, but try something. Mm-hmm. And if not the whole institute identification, but I could probably identify at least one person in San Francisco who I think would be up for it. It's not a full-time job, and their level of commitment to someone like you or Paul, who's a director or a co-chair, is going to be obviously different. But giving people, Paul Coutier as a co-chair, it will be different, but having a set project, networking, saying, coordinating a conference call between those people, or even an interline online chat of doing something. Maybe, God forbid, giving them a stipend. Saying, hey, if you do this project, we'll give you $100 a day to come to convention and to pull this off. When we really want to do something, when people, I went through a breakup a little bit, I said, well, when you really want to do something, this is how you act. And you used to act that way. And he would say, oh, no. But when people really do care about stuff, they put the resources behind it. And they also allow time for failure, or things that is not perfect. If the very first date you had, and you were like the guy, and the first date wasn't perfect, actually a lot of people did say, okay, that date wasn't perfect. But a lot of times, the most successful relationships, first date was okay.